Good afternoon everybody, it's just a quick catch-up video and thought I'd use the opportunity while we have some gorgeous sunshine. It's not going to last with the up and down spring weather, and I just thought I'd grab the opportunity to say what we've been doing today, because we've done a little bit of stuff and it feels good to actually have had something done, because we're getting quite depressing in the wet weather after the snowy weather and not being able to do anything. So I was really glad that today we actually got something done. So where do I start? Let's start at the back there. Yeah, sorry about having to move around so much, but like I said, I'm no camera person and I don't edit, simply because I haven't got a clue how. Okay, we actually started something on the fruit cage to be today, in that we made some beds on the side. We filled it with some fresh and very claggy and wet poultry manure from next door. So we put that down first, covered it with a bit of straw, and then put some compost down, and I've put the pots on top. I think I'll leave the fruit bushes in the pots because I want that manure to rot down first before I put any plants in it, so maybe in the autumn. So for this year, these fruits will have to stay in the pots. Obviously before they start setting fruit, we will have to cover this frame with some netting to stop the birds getting at all the fruit. We've got the two gooseberries there in the front that are sprouting nicely, and then I've got my Chilean guava there, two blueberries in the corner there, and the two black currants this side. So I mean, if I had quite a few acres, or even half an acre, I would plant an orchard full of fruit, and I wouldn't care about the birds because there'd be plenty for everybody. But since I've only got a small space, I really need to keep some for us. So this has to be protected from the birds. There is still that black currant over there, and the birds will strip that off before they're even ripe, so I don't feel too bad. They do have some food there. This tub still has the yacon in that I left in over winter, but I dug up, my son and myself dug up the yacon from here today, and mulched deeply with more compost so that the whole bed will be ready for whatever we're planting there this year. And I think for most of the bed's going to be sweet corn, because I like sweet corn, and that's a nice big enough bed. We had brassicas in there last year, so we'll swap them, and this year we'll put cabbages over that way. In those two big tall tubs are going to be potatoes, and we'll put potted plants and cabbages everywhere as well. Some of the longer tubes that we have here, I'm going to steal them for concreting in the posts for the veranda, because the soil is just so shallow there and we can't dig down because of all the hardcore around the sewage pipes. So we will improvise, bury the pipes as deep as we can, and then put the concrete and the posts inside of those. Hopefully that will give us enough stability for the veranda posts. The kale is starting to sprout up with a bit more life, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Still disappointed that we haven't got any frogs yet. I'm going to have to go and find some frog spawn in a pond somewhere. I just don't like doing that because I don't know what I'm bringing into the garden from another area as far as water and things like that go. But I'm hoping that it will be okay. I'm just going to wing it. We're expecting another nasty cold snap next week. So today I was just trying to see what I needed to do to save some things, because when we had the snow, I had, just before the snow, put my pomegranate in this little corner here, which is very sheltered, but after reviving it from near death, I was really happy, and then after that snow the leaves all just died. So what I've done is, before the next cold snap, I've chopped all the branches down to the buds so that hopefully it will bud again. And I had little cuttings in here, and it looks like those two at least have sprouted roots. So hopefully within 3 years they'll be ready to be in their own big pots, and then within 4 years in the ground. It probably should hopefully start to get fruit in about 5 years. Not very hopeful, but I tied some newspaper around it just to protect it a little bit more, and I draped some newspaper around the passion fruit because it seems to have suffered a little in the snow loss. It's looking a bit wilted and a bit scorched, so that is hopefully going to revive. I'll cut off those branches and take off the dead leaves up to the little nodes over there, and hopefully we'll get more branches off that. I haven't actually, saying that, I haven't actually checked on my kiwi fruit. My Arctic kiwi is hiding behind the shed. There you can see my licorice. It's got some new shoots on, so I'm happy about that. Something has survived. We have got, yes, on Sunday we were given some really big slices of tree trunk for my husband for his wood crafts. They were exceptionally heavy and we're very grateful for it. It looks like mountain ash, so we're going to be making some lovely bowls out of those. All of the joster berries are now sprouting new buds beautifully. The buddleia has survived. Buddleia wood, it's a really tough wild plant anyway, and this is a cultivated one. It was supposed to be pink and small bushing, but it came out white, which I don't mind. It was beautiful and the scent is gorgeous. The hawthorn is budding beautifully as well, everything's sprouting up. Even my little in that corner over there, I've got 4 oak saplings that sprouted on the allotment I brought home. No idea why, because I'll never be able to grow them in a domestic garden, but I might just bonsai type keep them restrained in a small pot and have mini oaks. You never know, one day we might have land I could put them in. The blackthorn in the back over there against the hedge are starting to get tiny little buds on them now, so we'll soon find out how well they do and how they've survived. This lawn is an absolute tragedy because it's muddy. Even the dog squelches when she walks on it. It's absolutely precarious cleaning up after her. But here behind the shed is where I hide my kiwis, right there. And oh yes, there are some new buds on there, so they have survived. I'm very happy. This is the best place for them, behind the shed. It does get some sunlight obviously, but the kiwis do not like wind, and our garden seems to be quite battered by the wind, even with this very tall hedge with tall fences that side, hedges there, and we're at the bottom of the slope, but it still gets battered by the wind. So yeah, it means I'm going to have to be a bit creative with creating shelter in the garden but not cutting out the sunlight. Yeah, so my son has moved back in now, so things are a little bit more chaotic indoors for a little while till we get things sorted and get more shelving and wardrobes. And while he's here, he's going to help me build the veranda. So I just need to order that wood in a couple of weeks, when I can guarantee there's not going to be any more frost for a little bit anyway. A good dry week is what we need, and I shall build that. Yeah, some of the yacon did actually succumb to the frost. I thought it might. I did think we had more of a frost and snow this year than we've had for a few years, and as predicted, some of the yacon did rot away, but those that rotted we just dug back down to the bottom of the beds and covered them up. They'll keep rotting and feeding the soil, but the rest of them were fine, and the little plantlets at the base of the plant ready for the next crop, they seem to be fine, so I'll pot them on. I have way more than I could use, so I might just sell or give away some of those. I might need to get to sell some because I'm really skint at the minute and I need stuff to replace some of the stuff we're using in the garden. Really can't keep up with the amount of compost we need. I think it'll be a few years before we can produce enough compost as soon as all the bushes and shrubs and things are going properly, then we can get all the leaves and the shreddings and, you know, more comfrey going. Then we shall have plenty of mulching stuff and composting stuff. So it'll be a while. It will be a while, but I'm not impatient. The garlic in the corner there has sprouted nicely, so I shall stick them in the ground soon. Most people stick them straight in the ground, but in our garden I find it's better to start things off and then put them in the ground. They don't always bolt. They're perfectly fine if I start them off first, just to protect them a bit longer, either from frost or from slugs or whatever. But yeah, it should be fine. We're winging it. The place is a bit of a mess because I still haven't been able to sort a lot of stuff out. It's been chaotic. I need to get seeds sowing, but I don't dare. It's still too iffy with the weather, and I don't have a greenhouse, polytunnel or cold frame anymore. I'm going to have to at least build a cold frame, but it's when you've had one and don't have one anymore you really realize just how valuable they are for starting seeds off early. So I'll make a plan. I've got some construction plastic similar to the type of stuff that goes over some polytunnels, and I will make my own cold frame somehow. There's lots of wood under the shed there, just under there, so I think I'm going to nick some of Darren's wood. I'll skim nicely first, but I'm going to make a cold frame so I can get some seeds started off at least by the end of this month. Otherwise I don't see how we're going to have anything ready by the end of May if I don't get it started by the end of March, because it'll be, at least for some things like the corn, it'll be at least 5 weeks, 6 weeks before they're strong enough and big enough to put out, and you need to get them in the ground by May, by mid to end of May, otherwise you just don't get a good harvest. They don't ripen. But let's hope that this year will be a good one. I have some plans of putting up some vertical things for beans and pumpkins to grow up so I can save space on the ground, because with such a small amount of space for growing, I think it would be better to go up vertically with the climbing or trailing stuff. So I need to come up with some pretty useful vertical spaces. There'll be plenty when the veranda's up, because I'll put trellises up just like that, and I'll put trellis up there where they are. So I think the grapes and what else? And my passion fruit. The grapes and passion fruit will have to go there because that's the south facing corner. But they still need protection from the wind. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure something out. The Arctic kiwis, I have no idea where I'm going to put them, because they're going to get too big to keep carrying and moving behind the shed every year. I'll come up with a plan somehow, one way or another. Not sure what, but I'll figure it out. It's just been so lovely to get outdoors today. I've been really, you know, by a certain time of the year I start getting withdrawal symptoms if I don't get my hands in the dirt and in the plants, and if I don't get gardening. I have to garden. I have to be out every time there's dry and sunny weather. I have to be outdoors. I need my natural connection, and I was so pleased today when I noticed that the daisies are flowering. So that's a pretty sheltered little spot there on that slope at the back of the mound there. So it must be a good little spot there because they're already flowering. At least, oh, and I can see some tiny little insects. You won't be able to see it with this camera, but I can see some tiny insects flying around. So yeah, there'll be food for them there. The birds can get to the water again in that tub just there. The pipe, I put a plant pot in there without holes. That's filled with water. That's the one that the magpie couldn't get into so easily. But all defrosted, the birds can get water again. There is just so much to do and I can't wait to get stuck in. I just want to get doing, but I need to be patient. Oh, today I was so frustrated. It really annoys me. Bit of a moan here. Retailers and manufacturers are taking the mick these days. Do they honestly think us consumers are so stupid? for about 2 years now, I've noticed that instead of putting prices up on products, they now reduce the amount of products that they have, and at the same time repackage so that it looks like they're just rebranding or repackaging things, when in fact they're putting less product for the same price. So in fact it is more expensive. And even the so-called ethical companies like Astonish, who are cruelty-free, even they have gone to do the same thing as all the other retailers. What we used to buy, the size of tubs for the money, the same price now, the tubs are much smaller. And today, as a witness, I went to Wilkinson's to get compost. Now these exact same type of packaging, looks exactly the same as it always has. I got to Wilkinson's today and the bags were always £3 a bag, and I looked at that and it said 50 litres, and you pick it up and that bag felt not even a 2/3 full. And I thought, how crafty is that? The bags used to be 75 litres full for £3. Now they're 50 litres for £3. They're doing exactly the same as all the retailers everywhere else and the manufacturers. And I just thought, how ridiculous. Everything is going the same way. You get less product for the same amount of money. So people think that nothing's going up in price, but in fact you're getting a lot less for your money. And I think that's a bit crafty and devious. It's still the same thing. So I was a bit annoyed about that. I can't wait till we've got enough plants growing that I could make enough compost for our garden that we need. That's why I don't do digging. I do lots of mulching and mulching and mulching. One day I just stop using these things and reverting back to old-fashioned natural cleaning things, because I'm sick and tired of manufacturers. I'm sick and tired of their chemicals and their retail tactics and their money making. It's just frustrating. So there, I've had a bit of a whinge. So I bought Wilkinson's compost because of all the compost that we've ever used, it's the one that we've never had any problems with. It's always been a good compost. Last year, because we had to get so much, I had to order bulk, and I ordered from another supplier, and because we had so much of it, it was cheaper to do it that way, and it looked really good. It looked lovely, the compost. But this year in the front garden, with the plants that have been going over winter, a lot of them are showing signs that the compost is not that good, because there's some yellowing and also some of the leaves are curling up. Now sometimes that is an indication of contaminated soil or compost. So where the company get their supplies from, how they make their compost, it's usually that wherever they get their raw materials to make the compost, there have been weed killers or pesticides used on the land, and it doesn't come out of the compost. Even though it's been composted, those chemicals stay in the soil. And so some of the plants up front, I've noticed, have got some strange curling on the leaves and some yellowing and purpling of some of the other plants, and I used the same treatment everywhere, front and back. So yeah, I'll just go back to Wilkinson's for now while I have to, and hopefully one day we won't need to buy in compost at all. I really don't want to. I'd rather like to be able to provide and grow everything we need right here in this garden and make ourselves less dependent on many of these retailers and manufacturers that are taking the mick with us, really. So anyway, it's coming on for 20 minutes almost, so I better get going. I've got so much to do. I just wanted to take the opportunity to make a video while there was actually sunshine, because for the rest of the week it's going to be overcast, sometimes a bit dry, very mild bits of showers every now and again, but it's not going to be as lovely as today, so I thought I'd just grab the opportunity. So I wish you all a lovely week regardless of the weather. Get outdoors, get your hands dirty, and shop wisely. Have a lovely day, everybody. Bye.